It was just another morning in one of the wealthiest areas of the city, but for Angela, it wasn't just another day. She had come here for a reason no one else was going to see coming. She knew how people saw her. They saw her dark skin, the casual clothes she wore to blend in, and assumed she didn't belong. The morning air was crisp, and she stood at the gates of Regency Heights, her home, her penthouse, and yet, today, it didn't feel like it. Not with the way the security guard was looking at her. Angela stepped out of her modest sedan, the engine still humming as it fell silent. It wasn't the flashy car most people would expect from someone owning the penthouse at Regency Heights. She wore a simple navy hoodie, dark slacks, and her hair pulled into a neat bun. She wasn't here to impress anyone with her looks. She didn't need to. Her presence alone, the quiet confidence she carried, was enough. But as she approached the gate, she already knew what was coming. Michael, the security guard at the front booth, leaned forward, his eyes scanning her from top to bottom. It wasn't just the usual checking of a resident's ID. No, there was something in his gaze, something that made her feel small in a way she hadn't in years. "Excuse me, ma'am." Michael's voice was low, but there was an edge to it. "You here for a cleaning job or a delivery? We don't let just anyone walk in." The words stung more than she expected. But Angela was better than that. She was calm. She didn't flinch, didn't react with anger, though inside, she could feel a wave of frustration beginning to rise. "No," she said, her voice steady, professional. "I'm here to register as a resident. I'm the owner of PH 29. She pulled out the ownership contract for the penthouse, sliding it through the booth's narrow window. The paper was crisp, sharp, a symbol of everything she had worked for, everything she had earned. Michael grabbed the document, his thick fingers brushing across the pages with the carelessness of someone who didn't care, didn't need to care. He flipped through it without really reading, a grunt of skepticism escaping his lips. "This looks questionable," he muttered, a low grunt escaping him. "We'll need to verify this. Wait here." The dismissal was almost casual, as though her existence here was an inconvenience. The irony of it all wasn't lost on Angela. She stood there in front of her own building, her own home, and was treated like an outsider. She could feel the judgment in the air. But Angela wasn't about to let it show. She wasn't going to let it rattle her. Her gaze lingered on the security camera above. She knew it was recording everything. The little moments, the small slights, all captured for posterity. The minutes dragged on. Angela stood there, unmoving, her arms by her sides, her breath steady. Behind her, a young couple in matching designer athleisure passed through, the guard giving them a brief nod, a polite greeting. No ID check. No questions asked. Just a quick swipe of their key cards, and they were in. She watched as another resident, an older woman with a designer handbag, passed by and whispered to her friend. She must be lost. This isn't the place for her. The words were soft, but Angela heard them. They always heard them. This was the world they lived in. The world where a woman who had earned everything, fought for everything, was still treated like she didn't belong. Like she was in VY Cybele. But Angela wasn't going to be in VY Cybele. Not today. Finally, at the 5-minute mark, another guard stepped out of the booth. His expression matched Michael's, skeptical, dismissive. "Still here?" he asked, his voice laced with irritation, as though Angela was somehow wasting his time. "You sure you're not at the wrong complex? There's a budget building down the road." Angela didn't flinch. She didn't back down. She had earned her place here, and no one was going to take that away from her. "I'm certain," she said, her tone clipped but polite. "Please expedite the process or let me speak with your supervisor." The guard exchanged a look with Michael, and she could see the silent communication passing between them. It wasn't about security. It wasn't about process. It was about making her feel small, making her feel like she was the problem. With a frustrated sigh, Michael picked up the phone and spoke into the microphone. His voice crackled through the speaker. "Verification's taking longer than expected. You sure you're not at the wrong complex? There's a budget one down the road. Angela's fingers tightened briefly around her purse, the only sign of the anger simmering beneath her composed exterior. She wasn't here to argue. She wasn't here to beg for their approval. She was here to claim what was rightfully hers. And she would. I'm certain, she said, her voice even. Please expedite the process or let me speak with your supervisor. Minutes dragged by. Residents were starting to notice, and the murmurs had shifted. Some had stopped to watch the spectacle. A few whispered among themselves, clearly intrigued. One man in a pinstriped suit checked his watch, his impatience almost palpable. A couple with shopping bags stopped to observe, their faces a mixture of curiosity and judgment. They didn't know who she was, didn't know anything about her. But in that moment, they were content to add their voices to the crowd, to be part of the chorus that judged her before knowing a thing about her. The voices, the whispers, the glances, it was all too familiar. Angela had faced this her entire life. The skepticism, the doubt, the assumptions. But she wasn't just some girl trying to fit into a world that hadn't made room for her. No, she was someone who had earned her place here. And she was going to take it. Please, Angela said again, her voice carrying the weight of patience. I'd like to speak with someone inside. At this point, a woman in a cream-colored designer coat stepped forward. She gave Angela a once-over, her gaze dripping with condescension. What's she trying to prove? The woman asked, loud enough for Angela to hear, her lips curling into a smirk. Angela stood tall, though every word felt like a jab. Her thoughts were clear, though she didn't let them show. She wasn't going to let them push her into a corner. Not today. The door to the lobby opened, and a man strode in tall, wearing a tailored blazer, his every move one of privy leg. Nathan, the building manager, the one who thought he controlled the room. He was the final test. The one person who could either prove her right or prove her wrong. But Angela wasn't worried. She knew what she had to do. What's the problem here? Nathan's voice was smooth, but it carried a sharp edge. Angela stepped forward, the contract still in her hand. I'm Angela Brown, and I'm here to register as the owner of PH29, she said, her voice steady. Nathan gave her a skeptical look, barely glancing at her documents. Your staff refused to process my registration, she continued. I'd like you to verify my ownership now. His smirk widened, his gaze narrowing in on her. Look, Ms. Brown, if that's even your name, he said, a mocking tone creeping into his voice. This isn't how things work at Regency Heights. You're causing a scene, probably for some scam or to smear our reputation. The words hit like a slap, but Angela stayed calm. She didn't flinch. She'd faced worse before. She had faced prejudice her whole life. And every time she faced it, she proved them wrong. Angela leaned in slightly. I'm here to register my ownership. Please, verify my contract. Nathan's face twisted with disbelief. But instead of verifying it, he turned to Michael, who was standing off to the side, watching with the kind of satisfaction people get when they know they have power over someone. Angela didn't wait for Nathan's answer. Instead, she reached into her purse and took out her phone. She pressed a few buttons, dialing a number she knew would change everything. Margaret, it's Angela Brown, she said when the phone picked up. I'm at Regency Heights. I need you here now. I need you to access the ownership database for PH29. I'll explain everything when you arrive. The tension in the air was palpable. The residents, now watching intently, felt the shift. They'd come to see an outsider be put in her place, but what they were seeing was something else. Something they didn't expect. Margaret arrived minutes later, her presence undeniable. The building's CEO, the one in charge. Margaret didn't hesitate. She walked straight up to Nathan, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the situation. She pulled out her tablet and tapped it. Verify PH29's records, she said, her voice sharp. She turned the screen toward the officer standing near the counter. Angela Brown. Margaret said, the words final. chairperson of Regency Heights Board. The air in the lobby shifted. Nathan's smirk faded, his confidence crumbling. I had no idea, he stammered, taking a step back. The room grew quieter. Angela, who had been dismissed, doubted, and judged, stood there with quiet resolve. She turned to face the crowd, her eyes sweeping over them. You judged me before you even saw the truth, she said. You made assumptions. You dismissed me. But now I'm here, and you'll have to listen. Her voice rang through the lobby, her calm authority piercing through the murmurs. The crowd shifted uneasily, and for the first time, the whispers weren't aimed at her. They were about Nathan. You didn't even check my contract, Angela continued. You saw me and decided I didn't belong. Nathan's arrogance, once so sharp and unwavering, had been shattered. He had underestimated her. And now, the tables had turned.